Hello, welcome to Money Matters TV. I'm Mike Dever, founder of Brandywine Asset Management, and my co-host today is Audrey Greenberg, co-founder of Center for Breakthrough Medicine. Hello, Audrey.
Hi, Mike. How are you today?
Hey, doing great, thank you. So you're on the road,
I'm on the road.
calling in remote, and I want to touch on that in a little bit. Who you're meeting with and how that reflects on what your business is, what you're doing. But first, maybe for our audience, I'd like to dig in a little more on your business, Center for Breakthrough Medicines. How did it get started? What triggered it, and what is it you're actually doing and the service you're providing?
Yeah. So we originally founded the company in 2019. It was just me for almost a year. And at the time, the company was called the Discovery Labs. We were showing lab space essentially to biopharma companies for lease. We owned, at the time, it was a couple million square feet. Now we have in excess of that. It's this life science ecosystem in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. So we're showing the space to one company after the next. And it's manufacturing company, one after the next, cell and gene therapy. At some point, a light bulb goes off and you say, well, I guess there's a tremendous need for manufacturing capacity. But we realized it wasn't just the capacity. Physical capacity, that is. It was the people, the experience, the expertise, the bioreactors no one could get, the consumables that were in hard demand. So we started the Center for Breakthrough Medicines, launched out of Discovery Labs. We have 700,000 square feet of the million square feet at Discovery Labs. And we do everything from plasmid DNA production to viral vector manufacturing to cell therapy processing with all the wraparound testing and analytics that go with it, as well as really robust process development work. So a lot of
Okay.
these companies are started in small academic labs, and they come up with a cure for cancer or certain genetic disease, and they don't have a way to develop a process that may be approved for the FDA. So we partner with them very early and sometimes late. They can just tech transfer a process in, and we make their medicine for them. These are living medicines that get injected into patients. And we're very happy to be bringing this online because there is tremendous need. There are patients that are dying and families that are affected that cannot get these therapies. And so knowing that there's so much demand and no supply was really why we started the company.
You really sound like you're the Foxconn to Apple. So somebody has the intellectual property and they develop the iPhone, but they're not going to sit there and build out this huge manufacturing facility to make iPhones. They're going to contract that out to another firm to do that for them. So you've got clients, your clients that have developed innovative gene therapies, and they don't have the manufacturing skill to turn that into an actual product or a medicine, I guess.
And even if
Um,
they do have the skill, it is so expensive to build these facilities. And we spent $1,000, $2,000 a square foot. We got the talent, which is super hard to get. I mean, this is a new world of medicine. There aren't a
right.
million people out there that know how to make cell and gene therapies. We have the people, we have the space that's really expensive to build, very high barriers to entry. And the business is really sticky because once you pick a CDMO, you want to stick with them. They're part of your FDA application. So while these companies may have the expertise and the capital, it's just not the best use of their time and money. They want to focus on developing new therapies. Let us put our knowledge and our money to work on your behalf. And by the way, it's also a much more efficient use of resources because a lot of these companies that build their own captive manufacturing plants, they're not fully utilized. So the fact that we can deploy capital and then efficiently use all the machinery and people that we're putting in the plants, that makes for better medicines for patients.
Are you able to show from a financial standpoint, which I always have an interest in, that these customers of yours, these clients,
Yeah.
can use you and the cost on the bottom line is improved because of your efficiencies and being able to have your, I guess, shared expertise and space and machinery and whatever equipment you have, rather than them buying it, committing the capital to it, and doing it themselves. What you're costing them, is it actually a savings for them then?
Oh, definitely, definitely. And not only does it cost them dollars, it costs them a tremendous amount of time, right? And what's interesting is what we call catastrophic success, right? So 90% of these drugs fail, 90% plus, quite frankly. So they immediately get approval. It's a binary decision, yes or no. And at that point, they need to start producing these medicines, which means they need to spend hundreds of $1,000,000 building a plant, and they may fail. So it makes sense to outsource, because then you can have optionality and flexibility. You can quickly scale up. And that's what we're here for, to allow these companies to save their time, their money, and have the optionality, so that when they do get approval, we're there for them to scale up immediately.
Okay. And when you say immediately, they come to you, they have something just got FDA approval, they're ready to go out to market with this and get it out in front of the doctors, whatever it is. How quickly can you have that product in a doctor's hand to help save patients?
Yeah, that is the $1 billion question, right? It's all about timeline. And so we like to partner with companies as early as possible to give them GMP grade materials and analytical methods and processes, so that they can quickly go through with the FDA. However, there's some companies that for whatever reason didn't plan properly, or maybe didn't plan for the capacity they need. And, the market's been crazy and COVID's been going on. So there's a lot of change right now. So let's say there is approval. You can Google this. There's a lot of articles out there about companies that did not plan properly, right? And there are patients that could be getting these therapies that are not. And it's really unfortunate. So if a company comes to us and say, look, we just got approval, hopefully, by the way, they come to us way before that, but we just got approval, we need surge capacity now, we have that. So we have 1,000,000 square feet of ready to go GMP space, people, materials, methods. It's really important to have this for the market, and we speculatively invested in that.
So the customers you have, how many different businesses or customers are there, and how many of those actually have then approved products that you're past the stage of helping them develop stuff and get through FDA approvals? How many of those are out in the marketplace now helping patients?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's like 2,100 companies right now in the FDA pipeline. And that includes in the regenerative medicine space, right? Cell and gene therapy and cell therapies and tissue engineering and things of that nature. There's a handful, like 10 of approved products. But if you look at things that are close to approval, there's quite a few. And so this is a burgeoning industry. We're at the very, very beginning of the future of medicine, being able to genetically modify someone's DNA to either turn off protein expression, turn on protein expression, basically correct their genetic code that was incorrect, or a cancer that's growing, and genetically modify that cancer, or your T cells, your immune cells, to help kill the cancer. There's a lot going on in this space right now, but it's important that we stay focused, that we have the scale up capabilities for the market, and that we have the FDA approved processes to help these companies move forward.
So of those, and then how many companies do you have, and how many employees do you have servicing those companies?
Yeah, we've quadrupled this year. So we had about
Okay.
100 employees at the end of last year, about 100, 120, and now we're at 375, growing every
Wow.
day. So we hired a tremendous amount of people. We're growing to 2,000 employees over the next couple of years, and beyond that, with our expansion space that's in our backyard, so to speak. We acquired this GSK legacy R&D headquarters, which is 1,000,000 square feet, and it's on a lot of land. So while we've taken up space in that building, we also have plans to expand. So we could treat a lot of patients in this facility. We can produce a lot of doses and batches. And it's really exciting to get these employees working to fulfill the needs of these patients. Yeah.
And you talk about serving the patient in the facility. So is that actually, it's not something you're creating and distributing out to hospitals?
We
They're
are.
actually
No, the
coming there?
patients aren't. No, the patients don't come. We don't have an apheresis
Okay.
center or anything like that. No, we make medicines, and then they get shipped to either the patients or the hospitals, or to the, quite frankly, the biopharma companies if they're keeping it
Okay. Yeah, no, I read something, it was just this weekend, about it was a genetic development for Alzheimer's, that
real.
they suppressed the gene, I guess, in mice, and in all the mice they suppressed it in, it stopped this inflammation that was interfering with the neurons and causing it from, essentially curing Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Now, so that's the type of company, the type of business you would partner with
Yeah, well,
in that?
there's different types of neurodegenerative diseases, and there's different treatments for those neurodegenerative diseases, Alzheimer's, dementia, and many other neurodegenerative. But essentially, they're small molecules, essentially a pill that you would take it's called small molecule, can be absorbed by the stomach and, generated, and it goes throughout the system, right? And there are some really effective small molecule treatments. What we do is large molecule or biologics, which are injectable drugs. So you need a clean room with very strict requirements, quality control standards, and those get injected into the patient. And for neurodegenerative in particular, it's a tricky area because you have to cross the blood-brain barrier to get to the brain, and there's a lot of complications with that. So we're continuing. We work with companies that are continuing to work in that area, and there is a lot of promise out there. So we're excited about the future for neurodegenerative diseases. I have family members that have been impacted by that, and just really thrilled to be seeing that there are some therapies out there that seem to be very effective. But yeah, you know what? Also, I want to mention that just because it's something is effective in an animal model does not necessarily mean it will work in human. And so there's a lot of trials that need to go on post animal study, beyond the preclinical stage into the clinical stage, which is in human. And that can take some time, and you want to be careful with that. So.
Right. But you're involved with the companies through that phase, I guess. Is there?
Yeah, we
you
can
want to
partner.
get involved early.
Yeah, we want to get involved early. We like late stage companies too. Don't let me get you wrong, but it's a benefit to the company to partner early because we can help them tremendously, not just save time and money and headaches, but it will help their path forward go so much faster. We can identify all the risks. We're the experts in CMC, as we call it, chemistry, manufacturing, and controls for FDA requirements, not just FDA, by the way, European and Asian requirements. We definitely can partner to help them understand what's required, not just in terms of manufacturing process and documentation, but all the tests that are required to prove to the FDA that the product is working and it's pure.
Yeah, it just makes so much sense. I mean, they're sitting there, they have an expertise. It's whatever the gene therapy, whatever they're developing, creating, they've got intellectual property around that coming out of maybe a university or who knows, but they don't necessarily have that expertise of getting it through the approvals, interfacing to the regulators that they need to interface with, developing actual product. And so you're able to just come in there and take on that whole aspect and actually steer them, kind of help them through that process so they don't have to learn it all themselves.
Yeah, that's right. And even if they do decide to outsource, at times they will have to outsource for a cell therapy company. They have to outsource to someone between 30 and 100 different service providers. That's 10 jobs in itself. You need an entire procurement organization just to manage that. So what's nice about the Center for Breakthrough Medicines is we like to consider ourselves an end-to-end comprehensive one-stop shop solution where a company can come to us and we will provide all of the necessary outsourcing requirements to make their drugs. So they don't have to go to a bunch of different service providers. And we do it on one campus. So a lot of other CDMOs out there say, oh, we're end-to-end, we're comprehensive, but not all at one site where, you have to go to California to get something and Asia to get something else. We have everything in King of Prussia, which is really nice because our whole management team is there. You can just do testing right across the hall. Everything's on one site. And it's incredibly efficient and saves time, really 6 to 12 months at least in PD process development, and certainly a lot of time waiting for tests and assays that we have at the ready.
Yeah. So how is King of Prussia? How is the Philadelphia area for finding the people you need to help your customers and make that grow?
Yeah. I mean, that's really why we put the company in Philadelphia. I mean, I'm in Boston today. Boston's great. There's a lot of talent here, a lot of companies here. It's also very expensive, and employees are constantly changing jobs despite the economic headwinds that we're seeing. Unemployment is still really low and wage growth is high, and it's hard to get talent. We love Philadelphia because there's 70,000 life science employees, 10,000 with cell and gene therapy experience, and academic and educational institutions that are churning out new talent every day that really are specialists and the founders of cell and gene therapy at University of Pennsylvania and Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. So we're very pleased to be based here in Philadelphia. And there's also, we have attracted talent from around the globe here. As a matter of fact, our CEO who moved here in the middle of pandemic came from Europe, and it was easy to sell him on Philadelphia. It's just a great lifestyle. So super pleased.
Okay.
And by the way, I think there's now 60 cell and gene therapy companies based in the Philadelphia region. So, and we have the big pharma presence too. So that's nice too.
Yeah. Now, so you're in Boston. Is that looking for companies? What do you do when you're traveling?
Yeah, I mean, it's meeting with clients, either those that are in our pipeline or those that are already doing work with us. And we consider ourselves really a concierge solution, very collaborative with our clients. So we love to be in constant communication, reporting transparently as frequently and as often as we can to let them know how their project is going, so that we can meet their needs, because this is a really dynamic market and environment that we're in right now, and these therapies have sometimes take 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So always staying in conversation about the process and the development and how it's going is super important.
And you talk about it being all in one place, where maybe some of your competitors will provide the variety of services, but it's here or there, it's not in one place. How does that impact your customer? Do they are they from this area, or can they be located anywhere? How does that help them if they're, say, in Hong Kong or something,
What's
and they
interesting?
contract with you?
I thought we would have more Philadelphia-based companies, and we do have some, certainly. But our clients are from around the world. We have a UK-based company, which is in the public domain, Achilles Therapeutics. We have companies from the West Coast and Asia. We really have a very diverse portfolio, at least from a global perspective, of companies. So they just want to do their manufacturing in Philadelphia. The East Coast is a good spot for that. And certainly the fact that we have such a robust talent mix. One of our selling points is just the experienced team that we have. Almost every single person in our company has worked on a commercialized product or has worked in cell and gene therapy or aseptic manufacturing. So we have the hand-selected cell and gene therapy experts from around the world at our site here in Philly.
Are any of the, I think you mentioned 10 approved gene therapies. Are you working with any of those 10 approved yet, or do you have some that are, you think, close?
We're working with some companies that have commercially approved products. We are working with some very early stage companies. So it really is a nice mix of clients from a stage perspective as well as a therapeutic indication perspective. And we have a good mix between cell and gene as well. And then within the gene therapy space, you're talking about a lot of different vector types, and we have a nice diverse mix there as well. And by the way, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I wanted to explain the cell and gene difference.
Yeah, yeah. So gene therapy is really to treat genetic disease. You take a viral vector, we call it, a virus that's genetically modified to deliver a gene of interest that helps shut down protein expression or turn on protein expression. That's gene therapy. It's really for genetic disease. And then cell therapy is currently an autologous process, which basically means you're taking cells from a patient and you're genetically modifying those cells and giving them back to the patient. So we take, for example, with CAR T cell therapy, which was created in Dr. Carl June's lab at the University of Pennsylvania with Bruce Levine and a great mix of extremely brilliant scientists. They basically took someone's T cells, which genetically modify them to be heat-seeking missiles to attack and kill their cancer. Because typically T cells either can't find the cancer or they get exhausted. So if you genetically modify them outside of the body to make them better at that, at fighting the cancer and give them back. And we now have patients that have been cancer-free for 10 years. And there was a couple 10-year anniversaries. So really thrilled that CAR T cell therapy is so successful and continuing to work on solid tumor, because those were all blood cancers and that's only 10% of the cancer market. So if we can fix the solid tumor problem, we'll really make some advances in healthcare.
Yeah, so that's great. So it's like a targeted chemotherapy kind of, would you think of it like that?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's different than chemo. Chemo, right, is attacking your entire body. This is a very precise way of creating an immune cell that finds a specific kind of cancer, adheres and kills that cancer. And there's many, many different types of immune cells that can do that.
So they have the concept is once they've got the initial one down, they can start modifying that for different types of cancers then and target different types.
Yeah, that's what's
Yeah.
happening now. So there's
Oh, great.
CAR T, which is T cells, CAR NK, natural killer cell. There's a lot of different cell types that we can genetically modify to help with different cancer types.
Okay. Now, when you talk about injecting a gene into somebody, and you're business person, and maybe you don't feel comfortable asking to answering my medical question, but
No, it's fine.
I
It's
just
fine. I'll do
I am
it.
kind of curious is how does that? I inject it in. How do don't all the genes need to get that transformation
No, well,
before?
it depends, right? I mean, so look, there's systemic indications and there's localized indications, right? And then there's gene therapies where it's just a single gene or monogenetic, and then there's multiple genetic, right? So it depends on what the genetic issue is, how many genes are affected, and is it a systemic issue or a localized issue? And then you create a vector, and there's many different vector types. There, I don't want to get you, but it's AAV, adeno, oncolytics. Like I could tell you all the different vector types. Some are better than others. By the way, lentiviral vectors are HIV. And so you genetically modify HIV. HIV is very good at infecting the body. So if you get rid of all the bad parts and you keep the good parts, which is the infectivity part, you can really make a difference. That's how T cell therapy works. And for genetic disease, we're using AAV or adenovectors. They can find a specific organ. They're very good at getting to certain tissue or organ and just treating that. So it's really been amazing to see all the advances. But like I said, we're at the beginning and there's a tremendous amount that needs to be done. And we saw that by the way, with the COVID vaccine, which uses mRNA. And we're seeing an increasing amount of nucleic acid-based therapies using lipid nanoparticles. These are non-viral delivery methods, and there's a lot of interesting advances in terms of technology. And CRISPR, I'm sure I don't know if everybody's heard about CRISPR, but CRISPR is gene editing. It's a way of cutting someone's genome. So there's a lot of new therapies out there that we're looking at every day.
Well, Audrey, that was great. Thank you very much. Very informative. I'm going to take a audience question here we have now. This is for you. This is from Mary Bellman in Philadelphia. What is the biggest challenge in gene therapy?
Mary, that's the $1 million question, right? It's hard to come up with just one, but there's a lot of issues right now with gene therapy. One is the immunoresponse, the cytokine storm that can happen when you inject a viral vector in somebody. The other is having what I mentioned on this call earlier, which is really having robust scale up manufacturing procedures and a platform that is really approved for the FDA, right? And something that's repeatable, that you can do the same thing over and over, which is really important. And then lastly, I would say analytics. Having advanced analytics that prove your product meets the FDA requirements is really important. So getting in early, having a robust platform, having the advanced analytics, having capacity, and making sure that you're treating the patient properly are the key things for being successful with gene therapy right now.
Great. Well, thank you, Audrey. And if you are interested in sending in a question to Money Matters TV, here's how you can do that.
You can have your questions answered on Money Matters. Please go to our website, money-matterstv.com. On our homepage, click on the banner on the right that says, Send us your questions. While you're on our website, you can find information about our host and guests, as well as show notes and links about this show and past shows. Money Matters is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to Money Matters while you're on the go. That website address, again, is money, MONEY, -matters, MATTERS, TV.com.
Okay, thank you. And Audrey, you want to come on back? I really appreciate that. It was a great talk. gave us a lot of information.
No, thanks for all the good questions. I mean, can I flip it real quick to you, because the market is so dynamic right now. I just want to take a little bit of time to ask you, how's it going? What do you see in 2023? It was kind of a turbulent year here in 2022. So what are we looking at for 2023? What do you think the investing public, so to speak, should be paying attention to and investing in?
Well, yeah. So it was a turbulent year, and it's not over yet. We've got another few weeks left, and who knows what can happen here. And what's interesting about it is we had one of our shows last year, about almost exactly a year ago now. We were talking about some of the things going on in the different markets, and the cryptocurrencies was one of the things. And I remember mentioning at that time, I said, "Well, you realize that there's like $5 trillion in monetary gold out there and $3 trillion in value in cryptocurrencies." So the entire history of the gold world market, was almost already being eclipsed by the value of cryptocurrencies. And that includes things like Dogecoin and whatever. And so we saw that. We wrote up our monthly report in November and December last year that was stating that this was probably the most speculative environment that I had ever seen in my 40-year investing career. Everything was going crazy. You had not just the cryptocurrencies, but you had things called SPACs. People putting money into companies that didn't even know what they were buying. All the tech stocks that were just going, out to outrageously valuations, outrageous. Tesla was valued at more than the next 10 auto companies in total. So people were paying up for stocks, and of course, real estate and home prices. I think what we have happening, and there's a long secular trend that's occurring here. We went since the financial crisis with easy money, quantitative easing, the Fed pumping money, the Congress pumping money, everybody's pumping money, that culminated in the most outrageous flooding of capital into the economy through the COVID crisis. So what should have been a difficult period for a lot of people turned into a gravy train.
Yeah, everybody was home from work, like speculatively trading crypto and all the GameStop.
And getting paid $1,000 a week not to be working. So it was crazy. And what we're seeing now is the aftermath of that. So you had a bubble, which was just absolutely had to happen because of the money that was being pumped in there. You had people that became wealthy from the stock market rising out of that, from getting, different PPP money and things. So we actually ended up with far more liquidity than we had prior to that. And that needs to unwind. And so what economics 101, you get a lot of money chasing the same amount of goods, you're going to get inflation. In this case, you actually had less goods because for a while we had problems in the pipeline. So I think we still have a headwind 2023. Doesn't mean that there won't be investment opportunities and abilities to buy stocks in good companies that make money and that they can go up. But there's going to continue to be an unwinding over the course of the next year. And until we kind of work through that, it is a headwind. It's going to be difficult for investors just to buy and hold and make money like they have in the past. Yeah.
So what is one to do?
Yeah, it's I think I don't want to tell people to be market timing because they constantly will do the wrong thing. The studies show that they'll underperform by 5% a year in whatever they're investing in by mistiming. So you want to maintain some investments, but I think right now quality stocks are still the way to be. More values type stocks are the way to be. Some of the international markets still have some opportunities, I think, over the U.S. But I would still recommend people stay away from some of the more speculative. You'll have big, rip your face off rallies when those stocks rally, but over the long haul, I think for the next couple of years, quality is going to win out. But thank you again. Thank you for asking the questions, and thank you all for joining us here at Money Matters TV, where your money matters. I'm